It's 8 o'clock. We're here at the Parliament, and this is about to start. It's quite a big place. And we are here to join MEP Jutta Paulus at Precisiontox Informative breakfast. And our main speakers today come all the way from the UK, our colleagues from the University of Birmingham, Laura Holden, Research Fellow, and Bob Lee, Professor of Law at the University. We will also have a chance to listen to MEP Jutta Paulus and maybe have a quick chat with our Ultratox colleague, Leonie Müller.
There's quite a lot of debate around animal testing. We can take it from an ethical point of view, scientific, legal, economic, but therefore, what other options do we have? So this is where we get to NAMs. So if we have all of these different methods, why haven't they taken the one by storm? Why are we not just using these alternative methods? And so that is a research question of the Precisiontox project, and one of its three main pillars is called embedded translation. And the idea of this is that rather than just having a science focus, it's actually trying to take that science out of the lab and what do we need to do to implement it and to actually apply it. What's the nuances when it comes to the barriers to NAMs? When you say that you don't accept them or you don't trust them, what does that really mean?
What we need from any protocol is something that is reliable, is reproducible and relevant, regulatory relevant to pointers, to hazard and to risk. REACH is very interesting. Article 25 of REACH describes animal testing as a last resort. But then you go into the annexes of REACH and you see actually stuff that's quite prescriptive and for certain endpoints in effect. But do we need to change the formal law? How much could be done by changing the soft law? European Chemicals Agency guidance, for example. Do we want absolute perfection? Or would we accept stuff that's much more indicative rather than predictive? If we were able, using those methods, to cover many, many more chemicals. It's not just policymakers who've got to make the switch away from animal testing. It has to be a job for the regulatory community itself. And we have to begin to think about leadership within the regulatory world. We must learn how to communicate better science. There's a great deal of work to be done in building some bridges between industry, regulators, policymakers, and in building some trust in the science.
How do we get on with this important issue? Because on the one hand, we're talking a lot about animal welfare and all this, but when it comes to animal testing, we're still saying, okay, before we take a risk, we rather throw another 1,000 rats down the bin. And I think this is not necessarily the way we should be approaching it.
So our next step is working towards a report on solutions. But for this, we're not doing this ourselves. We're working with our stakeholders again through different Delphi studies, focus groups, things like that, to kind of come up with an action plan of sorts to overcome some of these barriers.
A lot of the barriers are social. And actually that rather excites me, because by social I mean created by people in the course of their work. And I take heart from that, because if the barriers are social, then we've got a chance to change them. It's perhaps easier to change people's minds than it is to change process.
What today's event showed is that there are many different perspectives and opinions on the subject of barriers of NAMs, and to actually have conversations in an also more informal setting where people can express their hesitations, their doubts, but also their inputs is super interesting.